Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Tim Treacle, also known as Horror Fan for Life. In this video, I'm going to give you guys 10 movies that I think aren't talked enough about from the 1980s. These are movies that probably not a lot of people have seen, and if they have, they're probably around my age or older. But I think these movies are really good, and I just don't think they're talked about enough. And so let's get right into this list. Coming in first is Revenge of the Ninja. This movie, I think, is one of the best ninja movies out there, and I kind of think of it as a uh, kind of a slasher movie as well. But nonetheless, uh, the fight scenes in this movie are fantastic. There's a lot of kills, and it's just a lot of fun. And then the music, Uh, I just love. I love this movie. This is the second in what is a trilogy, but I think this is the best of the three movies. I grew up watching this one, and I remember watching this after Porky's, because Porky's we had taped on a VHS tape. For those of you who are young and don't know what a VHS tape is, that's something we actually put in the player and actually had tape and no DVD or Blu-ray player. Uh, but yeah, Revenge of the Ninja is freaking awesome. If you haven't seen it, definitely check it out. And check out the trilogy if you want. But this movie is by far the best in the trilogy. And it's one movie that I don't think gets talked about enough. Next is a movie I just mentioned, Porky's. Uh, this is your teen sex comedy with a lot of nudity in it. And this was American Pie, uh, or this was the movie pretty much like American Pie in a way, because in Porky's you have Pee Wee who is trying to get laid, and in American Pie you have teenagers who are trying to get laid as well. In this movie though, Porky's, you got a great cast. Um, you have Kim Cattrall, a very young Kim Cattrall in this movie. She plays a cheerleader. Uh, and uh, One of my favorite scenes in the movie is uh, the guys are having basketball practice. One of the coaches takes uh, Lassie up to the dressing room and has sex with her, and she howls like a or uh, screams like a dog, basically, and it gets everyone going, especially another coach that is down there. He knows exactly what's going on, and yeah, it's a classic scene. But Porky's is a great movie. I don't think it gets talked about enough. It started the teen sex comedy trend, if you will, and it's a lot of fun. Uh, Tony Gagnos, who plays Meet Tupelo, he is one of my favorite characters as well. Uh, but like I said, I love the cast. It's a very funny movie. It is for adults, even though I watched it when I was a little kid. I'm talking 4 or 5 years old. The times were different. People uh, actually knew it's just a movie. Uh, Nowadays, everything's trying to get taken off air because they think everything is offensive, and that's the story for another day. But Porky's, definitely check it out if you haven't seen it. Next is Seems Like Old Times, starring Chevy Chase. And uh, This is another underrated movie, in my opinion. I love the story. Chevy Chase plays a writer who is kidnapped and forced to rob a bank and then thrown out of the vehicle after they finish the job. He ends up limping uh, to his ex-wife's house, where she is married and she's an attorney. Her husband is an attorney, and he seeks out the help of her uh, and it is a uh, freaking hilarious movie. Love that chicken pepperoni. I love that line in the movie. Uh, Also, you have, I believe it's Charles Grodin and I'm trying to remember her name, Goldie Hawn. Yes, and I always get Goldie Hawn and Terry Garr, you know, confused sometimes. But Goldie Hawn's in it as well. If you love dogs, there's a lot of dogs in it as well. But it is a very funny movie. I think it's very underrated. Definitely check it out. Seems like old times. Next is Night of the Comet. Uh, Great post-apocalyptic movie where there's a few survivors who were hidden out. Everyone else was turned to dust, and they're basically just running amok through town, having fun until they're picked up by these people who are wanting to do experiments on them. And yeah, it's another classic movie. I love Night of the Comet. If you haven't seen it, definitely check it out. The Last Starfighter, great sci-fi action film from the 1980s. Great cast, great music, great story about Alex, who is chosen as a starfighter to help beat Zorg and all the guys up in space. And yeah, that's pretty much the story. He kicks ass. It's a great movie. And if you haven't seen The Last Starfighter, definitely check it out. This is a movie that I'm surprised that they haven't remade yet. Don't do it, but I'm surprised. Next is Hard Bodies. Hard Bodies is another, I would say, sex comedy film. You have Scotty, who is a bit of a, uh, he's a ladies' man, let's just put it that way. And he gets kicked out of his apartment, and so he's looking for a place to live. He has this girlfriend who pretty much wants him to grow up, uh, but he ends up working for these three guys, teaching him how to pick up chicks. And while he does that, he gets to stay at their house, which is a big, beautiful house on the beach. They throw wild parties, they pick up women. And yes, this is an 80s movie, so there's going to be boobs in it. But it's really funny. There are several funny scenes that I still laugh at today. But there's a certain scene on a beach where this older gentleman is playing a guitar, and he has a girl with him, and she says to him, a certain line. I'm not going to spoil it. I want you guys to check this movie out, Hard Bodies. You should be able to find it on Amazon, and you should be able to find it on Xfinity On Demand as well. But definitely check out Hard Bodies. It's freaking hilarious, and I just think it's a movie that doesn't get talked about. Next is Spies Like Us with Dan Aykroyd and Chevy Chase. Another great movie that doesn't get talked about. I love the story. Their chemistry in the movie is great. It's got another great cast. And like I said, Aykroyd and Chase are at the top of their game. If you haven't seen Spies Like Us, I highly recommend it. Check it out. You will not be disappointed. Next is Harlem Nights. This is from 1989. This is by far one of the most underrated films I've ever seen in my life. I don't care what Rotten Tomatoes says. I think they're stupid. I think they need to go back and revisit this movie because I don't know what they were watching, but this is freaking hilarious. You have Eddie Murphy and Richard Pryor. Richard Pryor owns this club where you can dance, have sex with women, gamble, and all this stuff. He has a little kid. Eventually, he's played by Eddie Murphy when he's an adult. He takes the kid home with him because you don't have no parents, no supervision, And years later, they have Club Sugar Ray. And then they eventually get into it with another club owner who's white and basically wants a piece of their action because his business ain't doing as much as theirs. And this takes place back in the 1920s and 30s. And during that time, you know how, well, from history, you know how it was. And this has got so many quotable lines in it. Uh, it's freaking hilarious. There's a fight between Eddie Murphy and this older lady. I cannot remember her professional name, but nonetheless, it's freaking hilarious. Harlem Nights is very underrated. I highly recommend you check it out, and you won't be disappointed at all. You got Red Fox and Arsenio Hall. There's a classic scene where Hall thinks that Quick, played by Eddie Murphy, who he thinks has murdered his brother. So they go after him and they start shooting these machine guns. And this other guy just has this little pea shooter who keeps popping off these bullets and eventually pisses off Arsenio Hall's character. And it's a classic scene. You gotta see the movie. It's freaking great. Next is Bachelor Party, starring Tom Hanks and Adrian Zmed. In this movie, Hanks is getting married, and his wife heads to a bachelorette party. He goes to a bachelor party, and it goes just complete bonkers. Of course, the ex-boyfriend is trying to still stay in the picture and does everything he can to try and break him up. And yes, there's boobs in the movie, but it's really funny. It's one of Tom Hanks' first movies that really launched his career. And yeah, Bachelor Party, check it out. You will love, love, love this movie. And finally, we have Just One of the Guys, another movie that doesn't get talked about. You have a great cast, and you have the 1980s ultimate asshole, William Zabka, who's in this movie. He plays Craig Tolan, who's a bully, and but the main character, she's a woman. She writes a story which doesn't end up getting picked to be published, and she feels that she's being discriminated against because she's a woman. So she pretends to be a guy, and she wants to hand in the same story, which she believes will get printed at the end of the year. And all along the way, there's a lot of funny things that ensue. She actually has an older boyfriend, and she has a younger brother who is doing everything he can to try and get laid. And this is just a funny teenage comedy film, and one that I don't think gets talked about enough. And definitely check it out if you haven't seen it. They did another movie, Just One of the Guys, who was starring Corey Haim, which I've never seen, but I probably never will. But yeah, Just One of the Guys, a great movie. Definitely check it out. So there you have it. Those are my top 10 movies that I think don't get talked about enough from the 1980s. And I probably will be doing another list for the 1980s. There's so many movies that haven't been talked about enough. And yeah, definitely check them out. In the comment section below, give me your thoughts and opinions on this list. And what are some of the movies that you don't think gets talked about enough from the 1980s? Let me know in the comment section below. But other than that, I thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, hit that notification bell, and if you like this, hit that like button. But I thank you guys for watching, and check you later.